All right, so I continue to develop different images around this concept of the Nike store on the moon. I haven't spent many days on this one. I wanted to be pretty efficient and just showing you that to being able to generate a series of like 6 to 8 images that kind of like go very well together, you still need to generating probably like hundreds of images, and it's very important that you keep in mind that you're in charge of like the curation to having like a very cohesive look and stories across all these different content. For this very first exercise, we are not going to talk about enhancement, upscaling, post-production, motion. It's really just to like starting having fun and creating some really cool architectural concepts, so you get familiar with the platform and the way I'm doing things. But then as you can see here, I work first on like the outside of the building. Then I started to like play around with like different angles. And then starting to like, think about like what's happening inside the store, doing some like minor change. A lot of things were like super interesting. But like I showed you in the previous video, usually create like a bunch of like different assets. And then I'm going to start to like select the one that I want to upscale to kind of like see how it looks. And this part will happen on Figma. But then basically, as you can see here, just like removing the sphere element from my prompt, like I mentioned before, just to have some like other interesting views, adding details about like LED screens, and then starting to like play around with like a spacesuit, because for me, when I'm working on a concept like this, I want to being able to like not only show the design of the stores, but also some close-up on like interesting products. Nike and futuristic look works very well together, but you can either try to do things that are like very far from each other. Like let's say if I do like a Nike concept store for like an antique type of like a vibe and outfit, you can try to see if this is working well for you. You can also be like very specific, like doing like a Tesla concept store in a futuristic vibe. Like all these different things usually work very well together. And of course, depending of which brand you're choosing, this will have impact on the aesthetic and the render. But you can force a lot of the content you want to achieve by just like adding the words in the prompt. And so just like different views specifying more about like, the composition, how I want the things to get together. Here you can see the images I decided to upscale. Just continuing, adding some details. I really wanted to like nail properly the outfit. Sometimes when I'm not like satisfied with like where I'm getting, I'm just like start to like exploring different things. So here it was a lot around like the LED screen, and wanted to create like the very recognizable vibe and look for like the Nike Innovation Store. Then I went back into the outfit. There is a lot of like very interesting what I call happy accident that can happen within the process. As you can see here, like the pattern on the suit is like super intriguing and interesting. I add in my prompt that I wanted like intriguing details. So usually that help also generating some like interesting elements. Then more screens, different views, and pretty much just like keeping working, trying different like color render, different close-up, and another thing too is before I spoil kind of like my short selection, here I wanted to try like different render and material, because I'm a big fan of like full chrome, stainless steel and reflective material. And sometimes when I'm working on a series, I can generate some things that I can put aside that I will use for something totally different. So don't be surprised if you see something coming up from this one, not necessarily on the Masters of AI account or whatever, but just like I said, it was like super like interesting, like material and reflection and the kind of like LEDs tech details, so like pretty cool too. But so basically creating all this content, again, the goal is going to be for you to kind of like emulate the same thing and see if you can generating great results. And then usually when I have my short selection, so this is like what I upscale. There is 24 images here. And so I putting like this, to be honest, if I would like sharing something like this, people could look at like each independent images and things that are cool. But like when you're putting next to each other, is like not necessarily telling a real story, or you don't really feel that they're like part of like the same concept entirely. And this part again is like, there is so many direction to go, right? Because I could go more into like this like gradient vibe. I can go more into like the orange accent, but then I decided to go for like more like the monochromatic vibe, which is, you know, I mean, you can tell by my outfit, I'm more like a black and white type of guy, and so this is kind of like the final images. And so here, especially when you're like working on any sort of project, or if you're posting something on social, you rarely need more than like 8 images to put together. And the goal here for me was really to create this like narrative and storytelling when this is believable, that this is like part of like the same experience. As you can see, I like, you know, working on like different like close-up with the same outfit. It's not exactly the same, but it works, and people like will not really notice this type of details. I love the black sneakers here with like everything that's going on. And then also when you create a suite of image like this, you want different point of view, different angles. Like some are more like close up, so have like more stuff going on. And so yeah, so that's kind of like my final set of images for this series. The goal is for you to being able to like create your own series. So like starting prompting, when you find the concept you like, just like iterate as much as you can, then start to like think about like what are the different point of view and angles you want to use. In the prompt design sheet, there is like a section which is all about like photography. So like in terms of like angles and gear and all the different things. So if you need some tokens there because you don't have much experience in photography, you can take them from the prompt design sheet. But I also recommend, if you want to create like photorealistic content, it's very important that you learn the basics about, you know, like the different type of angles, the different type of lens, because they will be very important to help you generating the image you want. And to help you get started on this like first exercise, I also put together another Notion. I'm going to put the link in the description, with just like some ideas. So again, that doesn't mean that you have to just like pick one of these ideas. You can, that actually what they're made from for, but you can also just like being creative and like using your own concept. And so as you can see here, there is like a bunch of like different concept from like luxury brands, sportswear brand, and like tech companies, as well as some more like you know, like crazy stuff like Adidas Submarine store. I think here again the idea is like, you can use AI to do something like very realistic and standard, and I recommend you to do that if this is your vibe, or if you're working within a company that do like real retail space and stuff like that. Me personally, I really you know, try to always work on like very inspiring concept and out of the box, because if you work on like like the Nike like store on the moon or the Adidas Submarine, that doesn't mean that Adidas will ever build a store inside a submarine, but that can be, you know, maybe like a project that is inspired by their line, where they recycle plastic from the ocean to being able to create products. And again, like in the, I would say the old school way, you would do some like research and put a mood board together. Here, that could be like fires that you get into this pitch and you're able to like create concepts. Doesn't mean that everything will be materialized and produced after that, but just giving a very good starting point. So this is your exercise for this session. Very excited to see what you're going to be able to create. Hit me up if you have any question, and I see you in the next video.